Okie dokie. Mm.
All right, hello, our Fit family. So we're so excited. We have Chef Emileigh with us today, and I hope this will be maybe the first of many little cooking classes that we can do together, or maybe meal prep and things like that. So we're going to record this one so that everyone can have the opportunity to come into the class, even if you weren't able to make it live. So, but Emileigh, welcome. I'm going to just have you tell us a little bit about you, and then kind of turn the floor over to you.
Thank you so much. Yes, sorry, I'm just uploading the recipes, the full recipes for the dishes that we're going to make today. I am a holistic health and baking coach. So I help women to basically have the best health without having to worry about losing the foods that you love. I help make them in the healthiest ways possible. Put my face in here, sorry about that. Yes, so I have been cooking professionally for a little over a decade now. I started at farm to table restaurants and then moved over to fine dining places. And throughout that, I just started learning holistic nutrition just for fun, actually. And I kind of fell in love with it when I started to feel the differences in my own health and well-being. So through food and supplements and just my own health, I have managed to actually completely prevent my barometric migraines, which is something that I never thought was possible with food, but turns out it is, or at least it was for me. And so that is really what started my whole passion for health and food. And I met Tina just through Beachbody, as I'm sure most of you have. Working out is not one of my passions. I know it's incredibly good for you, super important, but I definitely need Tina's energy and encouragement to get me through my workouts every day. So were it not for her, I might not have been quite so consistent, but I definitely love the feeling afterwards. It's just, having the encouragement to get going and actually do the workout every day. So thank you so much, Tina. You have been amazing for that part. You're absolutely incredible. I just love your energy.
Awesome. And I was just telling Emileigh too, I was like, I can't believe it's been like a whole year, and it's just like, it's been great. So, I really love like what you said, because so often, we just get used to our problems and we just kind of feel it's the way life is. But just making some shifts into better nutrition, like we often do see so much improvement in different things. Like for me, it was like inflammation and just joint pain and things like that went away as I ate less sugar and things like, just seeing some of those things. And it's like this light bulb moment that food does so much more for us than just keeps us from being hungry, So I think it's really awesome, kind of your
So
passion, how you just found your passion in life, plus, just created this better lifestyle for yourself, and just were able to create so much from that. That's really cool. So thank you
so
for sharing
much. Yeah. No, the power of food and just fitness and working towards your health, like it's the little things that matter. Like those are the ones that make the most difference. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be incredibly time consuming or difficult. It's really just making those small shifts. I mean, today we're making a risotto and we're making panna cotta and all these things that are able to promote your health like you never thought that they necessarily could. I mean, if you go to a restaurant, let's say, and order a risotto there, it's not going to be the same health benefits as making it yourself. Oh, hello there.
Hi, Karen. Welcome. Sorry, I just muted you for a minute.
Hi, yeah, and you're perfect timing because we're just about to get started cooking, so that's fabulous. So, yeah, I mean, unless anyone has questions, I guess I'll just kind of get started with the risotto, if that's cool. So I'm going to lower this because I just have my computer set up, and with the angles that the screen shows, it's not ideal for this. But anyway, so this is my cutting board. So I just have, I sent Tina the full recipes via Messenger. I sent it to your Facebook because I couldn't figure out how to send it via chat here. I'm really sorry.
Okay, I'll send them out.
But yeah, so for the risotto, it takes about a quarter of an onion. I have a medium onion here, but it doesn't really matter. You don't have to be super specific about it because a little more onion is always good. And that's one thing that I love about this recipe is that it is so versatile. So I just have a white onion here. And one trick that I like is, I'm not sure if you can see it, but there's the root of the onion here that I actually leave in place while I'm cutting it, because that helps to hold all the layers from falling apart. So that just makes my life so much easier. Then you take just a really sharp knife and you make all your slits to get really small pieces of onion. So then you turn it a quarter turn.
Jared,
Sorry,
Jared said it's so satisfying to hear your onion.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I just cut down and across, lines that are fairly close together, but it's still all held together by the root because I didn't go all the way through, so it's not just a big mess on my cutting board. If you create a mess, that's totally fine. You can go at it after. But for me, who has super sensitive eyes, I actually find it super helpful to not go through the onion chopping multiple times afterwards, because then you're crushing and releasing so many more of the juices. Whereas if you make more purposeful cuts like this, you do have a little bit less of that eye irritation. So, and then from there, I just chop it up here. You're looking for pieces that are about the size of your grain of rice. If they're a little bit bigger, doesn't really matter that much. That's more for aesthetic purposes and so that it cooks evenly. So that is the onion all chopped up. And I just take the root out afterwards. So what you normally would have taken out first, I take it out after. And then I have my clove of garlic here. All I've done is just peeled it, nothing fancy. And then a trick to cut garlic quicker is you take the flat of your knife, palm of your hand, and you crush it so it's already flat. From there, you slice it up. And garlic you can run through a few times to get it nicely minced. Again, it does not have to be perfect. This is all getting mixed together in your risotto. Okay. So that's the first step. I will turn up the camera because that was really the bulk of my cutting for this recipe. I'm just gonna wash my hands really quickly, sorry. And even with just cutting that 1/4 of onion, my eyes are starting to water already. I actually had a culinary classmate, back a decade ago when I was in culinary school, tell me that don't worry that your eyes will get used to cutting onions. You'll stop crying in a year or two. 10 years later, no, he lied.
It never happens, huh?
It never happens.
That trick that you use for the garlic, I like that too. Like you can do that. It peels it off easier, like the outside skin. If you crush it and you can pull that out.
Yes,
like that too.
It does. That too is really great.
So Jared was satisfied by your onion skills, and I'm satisfied by your garlic skills.
That's so great. Thank you. I'm just gonna take this over to my stove.
Can you just put the garlic press on that?
You could do that.
Can definitely use a garlic press. Yeah, I just have an aversion to dishes, so I prefer to wash fewer dishes.
Gotcha.
But you can definitely use a garlic press. I actually kind of started cooking as a little kid as a way to get out of washing dishes. So anything that I can do to avoid dishes, I do.
Okay, so I have a question. My husband's at the store right now getting the brown rice. He can't find the short grain. Will long grain work?
Yes, it will. The thing with short grain rice is it's a little bit starchier, so it will give you a little bit more of a creaminess to it. But long grain rice definitely does work, as a lot of the starches are brought out in the method of cooking.
Okay.
So long grain rice does work. Just make sure it's brown rice for health purposes.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, long grain rice will also work.
Okay.
So I'm going to tip this down a little bit, and hopefully you can see my pot here. This is just my bottle of olive oil. It's nothing special. I kind of like to transfer olive oil into pretty bottles because it makes me happy, but it's just regular olive oil here. So then I add my olive oil to the pot, and I want that to be warm, but not super hot, because you don't necessarily want the onions to color. You just want them to saute a little bit. Okay. So then here, because my pan is warming up, one-handed is a special way to do it. I'm not sure if you can hear through the computer, but you hear them. You can hear them cooking ever so slightly, so it's not too loud of a sound, but it's just enough that it's there. I take my good old wooden spoon and I give them a stir. And what you're looking for here is for them to go slightly translucent. It is okay, and it's not going to hurt them if you do accidentally get some color on them. But for this recipe, you just want them to be pale in color. Not sure if that shows very well. Well, maybe if I actually grab my phone, I'm going to try to sign in on my phone, because it might be easier for me to show you that way so I can see the screen at the same time. Sorry about this.
Emily, when you log in, just mute one of your devices that you don't want to use the sound. You won't get in.
Yes, definitely.
So is basmati rice a short grain?
No, basmati is a long grain rice.
Okay.
It also has a bit more of a floral flavor to it, which for this recipe can work well because it's a lemon lighter risotto. But for many others, if you're doing like a meatier one or something that has a lot of mushrooms going on, it might not be the ideal flavor for you.
Okay.
For this recipe, it will work though.
Okay.
Wait, hold on. What about the
Okay, I'm going to
There you go.
So here, if I can, okay. So you got the onions going here. And I'm going to add the rice to it now. And you want to really nicely coat them in the oil as you let them cook. Heating them up and letting them cook in the oil is actually very helpful to having them absorb the liquid and release some of their starches. This is a super helpful tip there. Sorry, maybe the light will be a little bit better for you guys. So I'm gonna let them go in here, just heating up and cooking. Maybe about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes total. It doesn't really take long at all to get them nicely heated.
look at this? I'm sorry.
So the only picture I see is from the here. I don't see it from your phone.
Oh, sorry, let me try.
No, you're fine. Emily, you were good. Karen, if you want to see, if you're on your phone, then just scroll and pin the one that she's showing you, the demonstration. Just pin it to your page and then you'll see it.
Okay, I don't get how to do that. Sorry, I'm computer illiterate.
Give me a second. Let me try to switch devices on.
Are you on your phone, Karen?
I'm on my tablet.
Oh, okay.
Add.
So just like scroll over a screen and you should be able to see her other login.
Oh. Okay. I see both of them now.
You're okay, Emily.
That better?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, Ephraim, oh, bogus.
So from here, I just added just enough stock so that the rice is covered, but we're not looking to fill it up or cover it with a lid like you normally would for cooking rice. And so you want to give it a nice stir, and we'll leave that for a couple minutes and just let that go. And I will come back over here so we can get going on the crust for the fish. Now, the thing with this fish is you can use cod as specified in the recipe or halibut, but it also is really great with other sorts of fish. It's a super versatile one. You don't even have to use macadamia nuts necessarily. It can be great with almonds or walnuts. It's a really, really versatile recipe. So that's something that I really enjoy about it. So here I have some walnuts just to show you a little bit of the versatility of the recipe. And you take some on the pan, and again here you can definitely crush if you're using a softer nut with the side of your knife, because just regular chopped nuts aren't fine enough to use as a crust. But crushing them up a little bit more and then running your knife through it will be perfect. It does not have to be so fine that it's a powder. You do want to have a little bit of crunch to give you some really nice texture. Okay. And then I put that into a little container. I'm just using a teacup here, just any small bowl. Then I take some of my green onion and slice it up really small. You would do the same for parsley if you're using parsley, or any type of really fresh greens. We're adding this a little bit for color, a little bit for flavor, to make it look very nice. Now, this is something you can do several hours in advance, or even almost a day in advance. If you're doing this a day in advance of you making the recipe, then I would not add the oil. If it's just a couple hours in advance, you can totally add your oil to it. Just add a little bit of olive oil. Pinch of salt. You can add a little bit of pepper. I like to use Himalayan or Celtic sea salt because of the extra minerals that you find in it. They are different than regular table salt or normal sea salt. You want salts that are either gray in color, as you find with the Celtic, or the pink ones. They both have a different mineral breakdown based on where they're from and what minerals are found in the waters around that area. But they both have less sodium because there's more minerals involved. So yes, there is still sodium. Yes, it is still salt, but there's less of that and more other minerals. So this crust, super simple. I just stir it to mix it with the oil, and this oil will help it to coat the fish, but it still nicely falls apart a little bit. So you're not looking for anything too compacted. So that is the crust in a nutshell. Whenever you're ready to bake your fish, you can take it and put it on your tray, maybe a little bit of parchment down if you don't want it to stick, or a tiny drizzle of olive oil underneath, little sprinkle of salt, and then you put the crust on top, and you're going to bake your fish in a hot oven around 400 degrees until it's cooked. I would give you a time, but it really depends on the type of fish and the thickness that you're going. So if you get even a piece of cod, it can be super thin or it can be very thick. So you're really just looking for it to be cooked through. It's usually between 10 and 15 minutes, depending on the thickness of your fish. But if you have a really thin piece, it can be ready in 7 or 8 minutes. So you really have to go with whatever the particular piece of fish is that you're working with.
Emily, is there like an internal temperature for fish that you want to cook it to, or what are your recommendations as far as gauging doneness?
As far as gauging doneness, I really like fish is one of my favorite ones to gauge the doneness of, because you can touch it with your fingers, and the second it starts to flake, so if you kind of squish the outsides of it or touch the top, when it starts to flake, it's ready.
Gotcha.
You don't even have to stick a thermometer in it. You just touch it. When fish gets flaky, it's good to go.
Awesome. I love that. And what do you think about using this crust on like a pork chop or something like that?
It would be great on pork chops or on chicken even. It's really great for any type of white meat, or even an orange fish like a trout or a salmon. It would be nice on.
Yeah, that sounds good. I've got like a few fish eaters, but many not fish eaters. So we'll probably do two meats tomorrow.
Yeah, the meat you would definitely obviously have to cook a little bit longer. If you're doing it on a pork chop, I would sear it in a pan first, then put the crust on it and put it in the oven to finish, because the crust will cook quite a bit quicker than the pork chop would.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Same for chicken. Yeah, so that is pretty much the risotto. I will take you back over to the pot here on the other screen. As you can see, the rice is slowly starting to absorb the liquid. And as it goes, I'll keep taking you back to it to show at what point I add more liquid to it. But the important thing here is to just periodically keep stirring it. And it's that stirring motion that will help to release the starches and make it creamier in and of itself. How
high is your heat?
My heat right now is on pretty low. It's around a quarter of the maximum. So it's on low heat fairly.
Good.
I started it off just to heat the pan on a low medium, and then I turned it down as soon as I added the rice and liquid. You're looking for a low, slow cook. The longer it takes, the more stirring you're able to do, which will release more of the starches, make it creamier without having to add too many extra ingredients. So I'm just going to clean my station up very quickly before we get started on the panna cotta.
Did you say you're going to start the panna cotta?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Karen, if you have ingredients, you can make this with us. If not, then you can make it later too.
What's panna cotta?
So this panna cotta recipe too is one of my favorites because it is also so versatile. If you don't like coconut, you can use a different type of milk substitute. It's really great with almond milk, oat milk, coconut milk. The one thing that I do suggest if you are using almond milk is to make it at home. Most almond milks that you buy in the store really are not great quality because they only contain, on average, about 8 almonds per liter, and the rest is binders and fillers. So almond milk is one of those ones that you would want to make yourself. You just throw a bunch of hydrated almonds in a blender and you can strain it. I often just use a regular fine mesh strainer. I don't have an actual almond nut milk bag. Same thing for coconut milk. I did specify a can for the same reason, because if you're getting the 1 liter jugs that come the same way as almond milk, it's the same story where it's very little coconut, a lot of binders, a lot of fillers that you don't necessarily want. Whereas cans, you can find some that literally only contain coconut and water. Sometimes they add a little guar gum or something like that, but it's much easier to control what food it is that you're adding to your body. And this also helps it to be much thicker, which is, I find, a lot nicer for a panna cotta. It makes it really nice and creamy, but it will work also with almond milk, macadamia milk, anything.
Now, can you use light, or do you need to use because I've got both of them. One's light and one's normal.
You can use the light. It's personal preference there. Again, light, if it just contains coconut and water, it just means that there's more water to coconut. If there's binder, but usually the light products tend to have a little bit more binders in to give you a similar creaminess, which is why I typically prefer to go more towards the regular coconut milks. But it is totally up to you. The recipe will still work.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Have you seen my what's it called? My technique scroll.
So I take my can of coconut milk. I'm just going to pour about a half a cup off into just a container. It doesn't really matter what. You don't have to measure it perfectly because this is just used to do something called blooming the gelatin, which just means we're going to rehydrate the gelatin that we add before it goes into the hot coconut milk. So while that is poured off to the side, the rest of your can go into just a small sauce pot.
Hey, Emily. Quick
Yes.
question for you. So I have one packet of Knox, which I don't think is 2 teaspoons, or I have some 160 Bloom sheet gelatin.
Yes, excellent question.
Which one should I use and how much?
You can use both. If you're using the sheet gelatin, it will be easier for you to just bloom it in some ice cold water. So
Yeah.
you take a big container of ice cold water,
Uh-huh.
or it can be just like really cold fridge temperature water, and you're going to put it in that.
Yeah.
If your water is too warm, it will start to dissolve the gelatin and you won't be able to take it out.
Yep.
So you can do that, and then you won't have to reserve some of the coconut milk onto the side.
Okay.
If you use the powdered gelatin, then we're reserving the coconut milk because we're going to use it all together.
Okay. How
Hey,
many
why do we,
sheets would I use if I use sheets?
why do we want that?
Are usually about 2.5 grams worth,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I mean, which I believe is this.
Truffle worm?
You should be able to, let me double check the actual calculations for one sheet to the powder.
Okay. I've got molar mass on here if that helps, but probably not. Just kidding.
So about 1 tablespoon of powdered gelatin is about 3 sheets.
Okay.
So if you use 2 sheets, that will give you 2 teaspoons.
Okay, perfect. I'll get that blooming.
Excellent. So here I just have my coconut milk in the pot. I'm going to put that on to heat up. This you can just turn to about a medium heat. We're just looking to have it nice and warm. And then our gelatin, we're going to put in to bloom. If you're
So
using
the gelatin goes into the warm coconut milk.
the gelatin goes into the cold coconut milk that you have reserved off to the side. It's always important to bloom gelatin in a cold liquid so that you don't get the same lumps.
Yeah. This is so useless, I swear.
You could just add all of ours, right?
Yeah, because we're blooming in the water.
Okay, and then just to give you a quick visual on the rice again, this is about how cooked you want it to be before you start adding a little bit more liquid. So the liquid, there's still liquid in there, but it's not covering the rice. So I just add a little bit more of my stock and let it keep cooking away. Here I have the coconut milk, it's slowly starting to heat up. And I have my gelatin here starting to bloom.
And Emily, no problem with just doubling the recipe, right?
Yes, of course, you can definitely double the recipe. It does make nice generous portions, so you can also divide it into more cups, but the recipe doubles really well.
Cool, thank you.
Of course. So while your coconut milk is heating up, you can take your honey. This is my jar of honey. It's a little bit dark, but that's just because it's buckwheat honey. It'll work with any honey or any sweetener, and you're really just adding as much to the coconut milk as you need for it to taste good to you. The amounts that I gave are what I enjoy to use, but you can use buckwheat honey, you can use normal like apple flower honey, any honey will work. Maple syrup is also great. It's just to add enough sweetness to the recipe so that you like it. Sorry, my jar is almost finished. I get this honey from my parents' farm, so.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
that sounds
yeah.
great. And Karen, I was going to tell you, I did forward you the recipes on Facebook Messenger, but maybe Emily, you could just tell what like the amounts are as you go through it, just in case.
Definitely. So the coconut milk is 1 can. That's just a standard size can. And then it's about 1 to 2 tablespoons of honey is what I like to use. And 2 teaspoons of grass-fed gelatin. Other gelatin will work. It's just grass-fed is a little bit healthier for you. And those really are the 3 ingredients used in this recipe. So it's super simple and it's really quick to whip up. So the honey, I'm just going to add to the pot.
I loved when I saw it that it was so easy. I was like, oh, this is going to be great.
Yeah, no, it definitely is a super simple recipe. And because it's so versatile, I just love it. So to the pot of coconut milk that is heating up, that's where I'm going to add the honey. My buckwheat honey is going to change the color of the dish. So if you use a lighter colored honey, it won't get so brown, but it won't change the functionality of the recipe. It'll still work, just slightly different color. We're gonna let this heat up so that we can then melt our gelatin. And I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the trick to check to see if your honey is actually real honey or if it's corn syrup in disguise, because there's a lot of fraud that goes on in the honey industry. It's unfortunate, but if you take a little dollop of your honey into a jar that has nice high sides and you put some ice cold water on top of it and you swirl the honey, it'll act, if it's real honey, it'll actually make a honeycomb form. So it'll go into the shape of a honeycomb. Only real honey does this. Corn syrup does not. So that's just like a really cool, fun science experiment to see if your honey is legitimate honey or a fraud.
That's great.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you can't do this until you've bought the honey, but I mean, you'll know what company to buy from next time.
You're carrying it around. Yeah. No, I've got this. I'm good.
Hey guys, I'll buy the one that I really want later.
I love it.
So if you're using the powdered gelatin, you'll know that it's bloomed when it kind of expands and your coconut milk gets really, really thick. For your sheet gelatin, you want it to be super soft and pliable.
Sorry,
You just don't want little hard pieces in your sheet gelatin, basically.
Yep. We're close.
Fabulous. Once it gets there, even if your coconut milk is not fully heated, you can go ahead and add your gelatin to the coconut milk. So as soon as it's heated, as soon as it's bloomed, sorry, you just go ahead and put it into the pot. From here, I have my other screen with my phone just showing the pot. And you can see that really we're just waiting for it to melt and dissolve fully. So you can tell by just picking up a spoonful of it, and you see I still have some chunks of gelatin because my coconut milk is not quite up to temperature yet, but that will all dissolve shortly. come over here and you'll see that the rice is cooking away nicely. It's not quite at the point where I would add more liquid yet because it still is a little bit covered.
How long does the risotto typically take, like total time to cook down?
Total time, it's usually about a half hour.
Okay.
That's from the time the onions hit the pan to the time that you're able to add your tahini and the lemon and everything else to it.
Awesome.
But the great thing about it is you can, if you want your dinner time to be like a little bit quicker and you want to food prep it, you can par cook your rice. So you can do all of these steps up until it's just barely cooked. So just a little bit before it would be cooked to your preferred doneness. And then you stop it cooking and you let it cool down. And then when you are ready to eat, you can then reheat it with a little bit of extra liquid, add your vegetables in last second, as well as your tahini.
I like that. Does it cook a little bit faster that way? Because typically brown rice is what, about an hour cook time?
It depends on the grain. So if you are using a short grain rice, it does take a little bit longer to cook. So that one could take about 40 minutes,
Okay.
whereas the long grain rice will cook a little bit faster, which is in like about a half hour, 35 minutes.
Okay.
This method, I find that it's about comparable, honestly, to the other method.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It might be about 5 to 10 minutes quicker just because you're pre-opening the pores of the rice. So you're starting it hot to begin with, which is what you do when you mix it with the olive oil.
Yeah.
So from here, you can definitely go ahead and taste your panna cotta mix to see if it's the right sweetness for you, or you can add some spices if you like. A little cinnamon would be really great in there, maybe a touch of cardamom, but it's completely personal preference, whatever you like.
So when do you add the coconut milk that has the gelatin in it?
As soon as it is nice and thick and what we call bloomed, so that's 2 to 3 minutes later, I add it to the hot coconut milk. So you can probably go ahead and add it now if you've had it in throughout.
It what?
What kind of flavor is cardamom? Like what kind of?
Honestly, I liken cardamom to Fruit Loops. It has that kind of fruity flavor without the synthetic color taste.
Right.
But I've always found cardamom to remind me of the flavor of Fruit Loops. Like a fruity spice almost.
Jared's searching for it. I don't know if we have it.
It's not necessary. It's just if you happen to have it and enjoy that flavor, it goes really nicely. But again, it will not impact the quality of the recipe in any way, shape, or form. It's just an idea of a possible add-in.
Yeah, the
What
cinnamon.
would some other spices be?
You can do some cinnamon. You can do a little bit of nutmeg would be really great in there. It's really totally up to you. If you want it to be a spicy panna cotta, or if you want it to be more mellow, you can do more of a citrus one by adding a touch of orange zest or lemon zest. It's really what flavors speak more to you. And the amounts is super minimal, just like a couple pinches are plenty.
If I added cinnamon, how do you think some star anise would complement that?
Star anise would go really nicely.
Yeah,
Coconut and that kind of anise fennel flavor would be very lovely.
that's what
If you're doing whole anise, just infuse it in the milk and then remember to take it out so no one crunches into it later.
for sure. Yeah, I put one in there. That'd be good.
We always make that the winner, the person who finds like the bonus, you know, like
Ooh.
bay leaf and stuff like that. But they would probably be pretty wowed, wouldn't they, if they bit into that?
That would be a very interesting one. It is a fun way to do it, you know, winner, chicken dinner.
Yeah, a little bit heavier than a bay leaf for sure. So
I would personally prefer to munch on a bay leaf than a whole star anise clove.
Me too. Me too.
I'm not sure if you can tell here, but you'll see some of these lumps of gelatin actually look like air bubbles. You just want to make sure that none of your air bubbles are gelatin before you take it off the heat. And the rice here is ready to have a little bit more liquid poured onto it. Just like that.
Coconut on top would be
Yeah, that's what I got coconut out. I guess we'll
kind of list that as a topping.
So I know that our time, it looks like the Zoom is going to end.
Oh no,
short.
I'm gonna extend. I'll extend it. Don't worry. You have
Oh, okay, cool.
as much time as you need. Yeah.
Perfect, yeah. Excellent. So mine is pretty well dissolved. So now I just take it, you can put it into any glasses you like. I think it's kind of pretty in wine glasses. So that's what I like to pour the panna cotta mix into. And literally all that it takes is when your mix is hot and the gelatin is fully dissolved, you pour it into whatever glasses or vessels you want it into. And I like to serve it in the glasses themselves. If you have, say, a silicone mold or a mold of some sort where you can dump the panna cotta out of, so you get that characteristic panna cotta on a plate, you can definitely do that, and this recipe will work for that. But it's a little bit simpler to just pour it into a glass, put it in the fridge, and serve it out of the glass. So it's totally up to you. If you do decide that you want to have an unmolded panna cotta, you can do it in a small bowl or a small teacup, and then dip the outside of the container in hot water to loosen it. So you would take your ready set gelatin, or panna cotta mix, sorry, and you would take it out of the fridge and dip it into really hot water, just so the outside barely starts to melt, and then you could tip that onto a plate if you wanted to present it that way. But you could save the step and pour it into a glass that you think looks cute and serve it out of the glass.
You don't want the small ones.
Oh,
You can use those. That's fine. Those would
probably
be
would be
store
more
easier.
appropriate for serving sizes, honestly, actually. Yeah, let's use those.
You can definitely also add a little bit of vanilla if that speaks to you flavor-wise. It's really whatever flavors inspire you and your craving, basically. So from here, I just pour it into my glasses. My gelatin is all nicely dissolved. And I take these glasses and I put them in the fridge. So you see it's like a fairly generous portion, so you definitely can go ahead and divide it up into smaller portions depending on how much you want to serve. But that's the panna cotta in a nutshell.
What are your
And there-
favorite toppings on it?
Sorry?
What are your favorite garnishes or?
My favorite garnishes, I love lemon balm and fresh berries, but it's also really great with mint. Mint is excellent on it. Even some fresh lemon or lime zest would be really, really good. Anything fresh. To me, I love this recipe because it can be so fresh and taste light. You know that coconut, like heavy coconut milk is not exactly the lightest of dishes, but it's super healthy and they're really great fats. So I like that it feels nice and light. So fresh berries are some of my favorites. A little bit of strawberry, raspberry. The lemon balm for me is kind of what sets it over the edge of being really good.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
You don't have to sell me on lemon. I love it.
So if you were to put lemon in it, you wouldn't put any of the other like nutmeg or cinnamon or anything else, just put the lemon in.
If you're doing lemon, I would only use the lemon zest for starters.
Okay.
Lemon balm, which is the green plant, I use as garnish. But lemon, I would only use the zest because the acidity can cause your coconut milk to curdle.
Mm.
Oh.
So, but a little bit of lemon zest will give you that really nice lemony texture. If you did want lemon acidity, you would have to go through an extra step of going with egg yolk, because egg yolk contains lecithin, which is a natural binder. So you would actually go through a coddling process with the egg yolk. if you wanted it more acidic with a lemon flavor like that. But you can get the very calm lemon flavor that's not acidic, just with the zest, and it won't curdle up for you.
Okay. Where do you buy lemon balm? Where do you find that?
Lemon balm, you can usually find it at most garden stores, and it's I use it as it's a perennial plant, so it'll keep coming back every year, kind of like mint does.
Uh-huh.
I haven't actually found it in grocery stores. It's more things that most people have in their gardens.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's also called citronella.
Oh, okay.
I guess it depends on where you're from.
Mm-hmm. We might have to grow that.
Yeah, for sure.
It looks like a mint leaf almost, right?
It does, yeah. It looks very similar, but it has that citrusy aroma to it. That's really nice. It's great actually in the summer in like a watermelon and lemon balm salad.
That sounds great.
So yeah, that is the panna cotta. You just throw it in the fridge 3 to 4 hours until it's set up, and then you garnish it however you like. I would not put the garnish on until it's set because they will fall to the bottom.
Then you'll get to have a surprise at the end. You dig for your surprise.
Yes, slightly more pleasant surprise than the star anise though.
That's true. Yeah. Jared said it's a parfait at that point.
Then it definitely becomes a parfait.
How long did you say it would take to set?
Anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, depending on how wide your container is or how tall.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's definitely a great one to do like the day before. Or at least the morning of.
Yeah. I'm glad we're doing it today. That's awesome.
Yeah. No, this is fabulous.
Yay, Karen, they look good.
Oh, they look amazing. That is excellent. Yeah. So just to bring back and show you the rice here. So this is pretty much the doneness that I like for rice. Everyone has a slightly different taste, whether you like a little bit more bite to it or whether you like it to be very, very soft and smooth. But the liquid is not quite cooked off enough yet for me to want to add the tahini. But at this point, about this much liquid left. So you notice how when I pull it back, it takes a minute for the liquid to run back. So you do get a bit of a line. That's when I would add your peas, or if you're using zucchini, any of your green vegetables, now is the time that I would add them. So it's right at the end of your cooking time, but they still have maybe a minute or two before, so that they can start to cook a little bit. So it's at this point that I would add those. And then once the liquid is fully cooked off, that's when you add your tahini, and you just keep adding your a touch of liquid, maybe a tablespoon or two at a time, until it reaches the creaminess that you like it. Mm-hmm. That again is personal preference. I have given the amounts for the tahini. You can use a little bit more if you like more of that flavor, but that's the amount that I find works really, really well to get a really nice creamy risotto. Then you add a little bit of your lemon zest to it to give you that citrusy flavor. And you can add anything else to it really that you enjoy. Sometimes I add mushrooms to this. Sometimes I add a little bit of walnut that I've toasted off. It's super, super versatile. So I definitely love that aspect of this recipe.
I'm excited to use the tahini because usually I only use it to make like a hummus, and that's it. That's it. So I was like, yay, some other things.
Yeah, tahini is one of my favorites for risotto, just because like it gives you that nice little flavor. But I also like it actually as a salad dressing, so it makes a really creamy salad dressing, where I use a squish of lemon juice, tahini, and just a touch of salt, and it makes the best creamy salad dressing.
Well, that sounds great.
Yeah.
We have so much to learn from you.
I love sharing this. Honestly, like I really, really enjoyed this little Zoom. It's like nice to cook with other people and just share my knowledge. This is, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. It is so nice to just be able to do this together for sure. So
And trying new things that I've never tried before.
yeah.
That's
Because it
amazing.
gives you courage too, right? Like when you see somebody make it, so you kind of feel a little bit better about making it for the first time, you know? So I think that's awesome.
Next time I will try to get a better camera setup so that I have an easier time showing everything that I'm doing. So I apologize for that. This is the first time I've done like a group cook along Zoom. So I'm very sorry for my lack of technological skills.
Oh no, this is great. So, and on the recording, I've just kind of pinned both of your screens. So that way people can be able to see exactly where you were and what you did. So I love
Perfect. Thank you for that.
it.
Technology is not my forte. I do cooking and health, not yeah, sorry, I have someone knocking at my door.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, are you finished, Em, or is there anything else that you want to?
Yeah, that's about it. Unless you have any more questions. I just wasn't going to finish my rice because I'll have it a little bit later on this evening.
Very
Unless
good.
you really wanted to see what it can look like when it's creamy and all mixed together. I can definitely show you if you prefer.
I think
Otherwise,
that'd
if
be
you have
great.
any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Perfect. Anything else, Karen?
No?
We're good. Thank you
Now,
so
I have
much.
to re-watch this as I go ahead and make that now.
Yes, I'll post it so that you can have it for tomorrow and watch it as you're cooking tomorrow too.
Great.
So, wonderful. Well, thank you again, Emily. This is great, and we're so excited to have a wonderful Valentine's dinner. And thank you so much.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
Yes, thank you. It's
Good.
been my absolute pleasure. I hope we can do this again sometime soon because it's been lots of fun. And if you have any questions, Karen, feel free to post them or ask them in Tina's group, and I will definitely get around to answering those. So not to worry.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Awesome. Happy Valentine's Day, you guys.
Bye. Happy Valentine's
you.
Day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.